In the case of rape and murder, they cannot be released under remission. But now, every rules have been relaxed to release these barbaric animals. Even if they compare these people to animals, the animals won't accept it. The constable Somabai left the accused name, 12 of the accused name. She named the accused very clearly, as the reason is very clear. The reason is very, very clear, because those rapists and murderers were from their own village. And they pulled their body from the scene of crime, the SOC, and they tried to decompose their body by using salt there. And they smashed the 3-year-old daughter there mercilessly, like a barbarian. After one day, when the journalist wanted to contact her, she could be seen telling that, "Leave me alone. I am going to have the prayers of my daughter with my God." August 15, 2022, when the entire country was celebrating the 75th independence of India, only one family, one woman was seen in grief, and the entire family was mourning. The reason was the release of 11 lifetime prisoners, 11 rapists, 11 murderers, and 11 of them who were responsible for the murder of 8 people on the spot after the post-Godhra riots. 8 people were murdered on the spot and 6 were found missing. That is also equivalent to murder. Totally 14 were murdered, and a 3-year-old Saliha, daughter of Bilkis Banu, 3-year-old daughter of Bilkis Banu, her name was Saliha. She was smashed to death with an inhuman, with a barbaric heart. They did this entire thing to Bilkis Banu and her family. When she was begging and when she was pleading to those murderers that to spare her, just because she knows them very well. She called them Chacha, she called them Mama, she asked them, she begged them for life. She wanted them not to rape her. That was the reason why she was really traumatized after the post-Godhra incident and this post-murder and rape. The entire 11 men who were involved in this case were released by Gujarat government and under remission. Now the Gujarat Additional Chief Secretary Rajkumar has informed that they have been released on the grounds of good conduct and the nature of case and the years they have spent behind the bars in jail. Now that was the reason. What is the nature of the case? Let us discuss the nature of the case here. When there was riots in Gujarat, 250 kilometers away from Ahmedabad, there is a place called Randikpur. That was the village of Bilkis, where she could be seen selling milk. And those who were involved in this murder and those who were involved in this inhuman, barbaric rape, those who were involved in this tampering of evidences are none other than the same villagers where Bilkis Banu belongs to. So in this particular incident, why she was traumatized, why she was unable to speak, the reason was that they were really, really close to her like her villagers. Rather than identifying herself as a Muslim, even Bilkis Banu, when the journalist went to her village, rather than identifying herself as a Muslim, she could first introduce herself as a villager of Randikpur. These all guys are from Randikpur. And they started raping her. They started beating her through sticks and swords. They cut her family into pieces. 14 of them were murdered in the spot. 8 of them were murdered and 6 of them were found missing. The reason is that they were murdered as well. They were found missing till date. Then what is the answer? Ultimately, obviously, it is a murder. So 14 of them were murdered. 14 of the family members of Bilkis Banu were murdered, especially the mother of Bilkis Banu and 3 sisters of Bilkis Banu. One of those 3 sisters, she was the mother of newly born 5-month baby. And she was recovering herself from the maternity. Now this arrogant, inhuman, barbaric people, those who belong to RSS and BJP, we must discuss at first. At first we must discuss what made the Gujarat government now to release them. What made the Gujarat government now to release them under good conduct, under remission. The reason is very clear. That is what we are going to discuss in this video. Is it okay? Is it permissible in the law to release them under good conduct, especially in this case? First point. And then, very particularly, we are going to discuss why at this point they have been released after 15 years. Now, the government has made clear that after spending 15 years behind the bars, everyone is eligible and capable for remission under good conduct and the nature of case and the years they have spent behind the bars. But now what we are trying to indicate, what we are trying to highlight in this case is that very particularly why they have been released now is that the upcoming elections that is going to be held in Gujarat in December 2022, this year, in the end of this year's month, that is December. In December 2022, there is going to be general elections. There is going to be elections in the Gujarat. For that very reason, you may ask me a question. You may ask me a logical question. How is it possible if they are going to release some murderers, some rapists? Is it okay for the government to get votes from that? Yes, it is, because till date, when at the time of the trial was going in the CBI, Special Court of CBI, when the villagers were interviewed, when the relatives of the murderers were interviewed, when the Randikpur villagers were interviewed, they told and they painted Bilkis Banu as a figure of hatred. In that village, they painted Bilkis Banu as a figure of hatred. She was actually tutored. She was actually tutored by Congress to do this. She was made to confess like this. She was made to confess against the villagers. That was the interview of the villagers. And she was painted like a figure of hatred, especially. And one could be seen, especially a relative of the rapist, when the trial was going, she could be seen telling to the media that if Bilkis Banu, she is our villager, we are very clear, she won't give those evidences against us. If at all my family members are getting convicted, if they are getting convicted in this case, then definitely my children's curse will be on Bilkis Banu. That is what the interview of the villager in Randikpur. What does it mean then? The entire village was behind BJP. The entire village was supporting RSS ideology. No one from the village was ready to support Bilkis Banu, who was actually raped and whose family was actually murdered, who was left alone, in a single day. In a single day, she was made as an orphan. Who was left as an orphan in a single day after the riots. Her mother was murdered, her 3 sisters were murdered, the entire family was looted, the entire family was massacred in the very same day. But no one was ready to support from that particular village. Then think about the ideology, think about the mentality of the Gujarat people. Now that is the reason Gujarat government has come forward to release these prisoners, only having in mind about the upcoming elections in Gujarat in December. So that is the reason behind the release of these prisoners, these particular barbarians, these particular inhuman idiots. Now, so is it a case that is valuable, that is valid? Is it a case that is legible for remission? Now we have to discuss this. Even before there is ruling in 1996, rulings are there. No accused who has been convicted in the case of rape and murder, they cannot be released under remission. But now, every rules have been relaxed to release these barbaric animals. Even if they compare these people to animals, the animals won't accept it. The animals that are in the jungle won't accept if they are getting compared, if those animals are getting compared with these people, with these barbarians. Because the act, what they have did is that they actually, to decompose their bodies, they have used salt. They have smashed 3-year-old daughter of Bilkis Banu, that is Saliha. Her name was Saliha. 3-year-old daughter of Bilkis Banu, they have smashed her to death. And Bilkis Banu could be seen crying, could be seen pleading to the villagers, Mama, just leave me. Uncle, just leave me. Chacha, just leave me. She was screaming like anything. With the bloodshed, her skirt, only she was left and she was spared at the spot. Even that was also, the rapists and murderers thought that she was dead. As she was left unconscious, no movement was there in her body. They thought that she was dead. After raping her for several times, they left her. The entire family was dead. But only she came out, and with the help of a tribal woman, she reached the police station of the Limkeda police station. She reached the Limkeda police station and she was handed over to Bagora IPS. And the Bagora IPS handed over her to constable there. The name of constable was Somabai. She was handed over to Somabai, the constable. And after hearing all her statements, after getting the statements recorded from Bilkis Banu, deliberately, intentionally, the constable Somabai left the accused name, 12 of the accused name. She named the accused very clearly, as the reason is very clear. The reason is very, very clear, because those rapists and murderers were from their own village. One was an advocate who was running a fancy store there. One was a doctor, he was running a clinic there, where Bilkis Banu's father could be seen visiting the doctor often. Frequently, he used to visit the doctor there, the clinic there. She knows them very well. One was running a fancy store, one was an advocate, one was a doctor, one was the relative, and she was selling milk to the entire village. To her utter shock, she discovered the entire village, the entire village was very well known to her. So in this case, she named the accused very clearly, 12 of the accused very clearly, even after hearing the accused names, deliberately that Somabai, the constable Somabai, left those names. And then she got asylum in the camp, post-riot camp, that was run by a Tablighi Jamaat person named Umarji. That was also a tragic story. It's another story, a tragic end of Umarji, because he was comforting the people who were hit from riot, who ran a camp there, who actually ran a camp there. Eventually what happened, he was also made as an accused in the Godhra train case. In the Godhra case, he was also made an accused by the anti-terrorism squad, and he was also arrested and imprisoned, that Umarji. But coming to the point, sticking to the point, Umarji gave asylum to this woman, to Bilkis Banu. In the camp, she found the collector there, Jayanti Ravi. To Jayanti Ravi, she gave her statements. Jayanti Ravi handed over her to the Dohad SP. And Dohad SP again handed over her to Bogora, that IPS, Bagora IPS. And that Bagora IPS again recorded her statement without mentioning the names of the accused. Deliberately, they left their name again, twice in a row. Second time in a row, they deliberately left the names of the accused. Then what happened? After 4 months, intentionally delaying this thing from March to July 2022, after 4 months, the case was given a final status report. They gave a closure report stating that the crime is true, the event is true, but accused are unnamed and untraceable. The event was true, but the accused are unnamed and untraceable. Thus, the closure report was there. After involving herself with the activists in the National Human Rights Commission, she went and approached she was relentless. She had the fight. She had that fight within her. She went and approached National Human Rights Commission. Through Human Rights Commission, with some social activists, she approached the Supreme Court to transfer this case to CBI. And then when the case was transferred to CBI, thank God, at that time, Congress was ruling the country. So there was a very clear CBI probe into the case. In 2008, after relentless efforts, after efforts, in 2008, CBI Special Court found 20 of them guilty. 12 of them were accused in the scene, and 14 of them were accused in the scene, and 6 of them were police persons. And the CBI court called the action of police callous. They accused the police, and they awarded 50 lakhs as compensation for Bilkis Banu. The CBI court awarded 50 lakhs as compensation for Bilkis Banu after this rape and murder. And this is the case. When that particular constable Somabai was given 3 years of imprisonment as punishment, and he was depromoted for 2 ranks. The IPS officer was depromoted for 2 ranks. 6 of the policemen were punished in the case. They tried to tamper the evidences, and they left the shoes and the chapel marks there, and they pulled their body from the scene of crime, the SOC, and they tried to decompose their body by using salt there, and they smashed the 3-year-old daughter there mercilessly, like a barbarian, like an animal. So as I said very clearly even before, even an animal won't accept comparing them with the animal. So because of this particular incident which shook the entire country, let me remind you one thing again. The entire death toll was 2,500 after Gujarat riots. We are discussing here about only 14 of the murders. Only 14 murders we are discussing here. 8 of them were on the spot and 6 were found missing. Only 14 of the killings we are discussing now. But the entire scenario was about 2,500 Muslims. When there was a particular targeted attack against the Muslims in Gujarat, in Randikpur, when an innocent milk lending woman was brutally murdered and her family was killed in front of her very own eyes, when she was begging for life, she was mercilessly raped and was beaten. Her family was beaten to death by sticks and swords. And yet again, she was unable to bring those things into limelight. Only after CBI probe, this entire case came to justice. And then the culprits and the accused were convicted in the case of 2008 for life. And now, 11 of them, already 2 of them, when they were spending their time in the trial itself, most probably, I guess, they died. 11 of them were spending their time behind the bars. Now, after for 15 years, they have been released, stating their good conduct in the jail. Nature of the case. What is the nature of the case? Does the law allow? Even according to natural justice, is it okay? Even a layman won't accept this decision. Killing, raping a woman, murdering the family of the woman, killing 3-year-old innocent daughter of a woman, raping and murdering 3 of her family members, killing the men of her family members. Is it okay? Is it okay for a civilized society? Will a civilized society accept these murders? This thing happened in the case of Bilkis Banu. Even the case, she fought this battle in a relentless way, in an uncompromising heart and spirit, because she was tortured, she was threatened to death again and again, she was made to flee from one place to another. Even she wanted the case to transfer it from Gujarat to Maharashtra. The entire trial gone in the state of Maharashtra. Only then she got the justice in the case. And now, when the husband of Bilkis Banu was contacted, he is telling, when the news came that the rapists and the murderers are going to get released in remission, she was under utter shock and she was speechless. And now, after one day, when the journalist wanted to contact her, she could be seen telling that, leave me alone. I am going to have the prayers of my daughter with my God. That is what. So, I would like to underline here a thing. That is Pulan Devi. So, when you could find a Pulan Devi, only when you are deprived of your rights, only when you are denied justice, when you are fighting, when you are getting raped again and again, you are fighting for the justice. You are not getting the justice only because you belong to a particular caste. Only just because you belong to a particular religion, you have been denied justice. Then Pulan Devi comes. That is the reason behind Pulan Devis. So what does this government want? Then what does this government want us to do? As a layman, I am asking this question. So the entire world community must stand behind, must oppose this decision. These culprits, these inhuman, these barbarians must be sent again to jail. I urge the entire union government and I urge the state government of Gujarat again to re-imprison these barbarians. Thank you.